Good evening, warm welcome to the program. Today we are going to see one other important topic on inventory control techniques, which is known as cycle counting. Physical inventory accuracy is very important for managing the inventory, especially when you have a number of SKUs more than 5,000 or 10,000 SKUs. The accuracy rapidly deteriorates when you are having complex product or bill of material. This is where we need to control the accuracy. System stock versus physical stock should match. I have seen many organizations, especially in the manufacturing sector, the accuracy reaching to 85 or 90% at SKU level. When you have more than 10,000 pots, it becomes very difficult. Okay, but I keep hearing some organizations, they tell me they are at 99.9%. But what is important for supply chain professional is not financial accuracy. We are more interested in part number accuracy. If you are having 50,000 SKUs, how many items are matching system versus physical? It's as simple as that. And I have seen even global benchmarking companies, they unless they use automation, reaching a 90% is very difficult. Okay, possibly in the distribution companies like e-commerce platform, they should have a higher level of inventory accuracy, because they cannot tell a customer after receiving the order and payment that particular item is not available. So the control technique used in such an environment is totally different. Possibly more of automation is involved. That's where they were trying to reduce the physical manpower requirement. So if you need higher accuracy, then more of automation is required. That's where you will see e-commerce platform, they use more of a automation. But when it comes to manufacturing or traditional industry, we don't use more automation. It's more towards manual, and we have a lot of problem in the bill of material, and even recording, counting, especially engineering component counting is not so easy, and cannot automate such type of items, especially when the components are not packed enough. Okay, let us see some simple important aspects of inventory control technique, and one of the important technique is cycle counting. If we are able to do periodic counting or cycle counting, we will be able to maintain at a better accuracy level. Allow me to share a screen so that I can start explaining. So welcome again. Today we are going to see on cycle counting process and why it is important, and how to do this is the topic for the today brief session. Meanwhile, my introduction, my name is Raman. This is my Udemy profile. I have more than 1,000 candidates right now in Udemy platform. I am also in the LinkedIn, and you are welcome to connect or follow me. I am searchable in the LinkedIn by using the keyword supply chain master. As far as my background is concerned, I am an engineer with a postgraduate degree in management and data science. I have been working in this large global organization for nearly 25 years. I have started my career with the Bosch in the planning function. I have handled various subdomain at various levels during my long career of 25 years. And last 10 years of my career, I was heading the supply chain, end-to-end supply chain management. Currently, I am heading an organization known as Thoughtware Training Private Limited. We do training and consulting. Coming to my certification, most probably if you are a supply chain executive, you should be knowing ASCM or APIX. They provide this globally recognized certification. So if you are in the job market and looking for a job in good organization, you need this certification. If you are not aware, please Google up or even go to job portal and type the word Apix. You will get lot of, especially multinational companies. Local company may not be aware of this. Their method of selection is totally different. I also have a certification from Demand Driven Institute. They provide equivalent certification like Demand Driven Planner Professional. I am also a certified purchasing manager and project management professional, apart from qualified in analytics. Coming to our organization, we are based in Bangalore, 5 years old organization. We provide both consulting and training in the field of supply chain, logistics, purchasing, and allied domains. We are operating under trade name Expert SEM. Coming to inventory records. Okay, now record is something in the system stock. What we are talking is system stock, and it is essential that physical stock should match with the system stock, because we are doing various other planning activity considering the availability of stock based on the system information. Okay, it can be either MRP release or material planning or even commitment to the customer. We are going to make the commitment based on the system stock. But there are a lot of complication, especially in engineering organization. The system stock may not match with the system physical stock. For the reason, there could be hundreds of reasons, starting from the receipt of material. Their counting may not be okay, or invoice quantity may be different, and GRN quantity may be different. We may not have POKE to ensure that correct quantity is being entered. Then, when it is being put in the location, maybe we are not putting in the right location, or when we are picking the item, possibly we are picking wrong item or wrong quantity of the item. All this leads to wrong system stock. Okay, so it has to be necessary that we keep checking the system versus physical stock. Where we usually do two methods. One is a periodic inventory. Usually that happens once in a year as an annual count, and another one is cycle count, and it happens on a daily basis. So let us see this item. To correct the on and in balance periodic inventory. Normally we use it for audit purpose. The periodic inventory, we don't count only once in a year. That is a statutory requirement. That's why we count. But what is more helpful to find out the reason and eliminate them, we need to use cycle counting process. Okay, periodic counting also we cannot eliminate, because this is to satisfy the financial auditors. Okay, because we are going to take this inventory value in the balance sheet as the current assets. Okay, so it is being published to the stock exchange and other government authorities. So the external auditor can audit the account, and that happens once in a year. So if you are able to satisfy the auditor, even possibly based on the financial value, it may be sufficient. Financially, if you are able to confirm the auditor that you are within plus or minus zero point 0.5 or 1%, auditor will be happy. On the other hand, it may be a big trouble for supply chain executive. We are not worried about financial value, but we are more interested in item wise the accuracy. Okay, so in the periodic, it is to satisfy the auditor. The other thing is to determine the value of the inventory, because this is will be used as a current asset in the balance sheet. So auditors are mostly concerned with the total value. They may not do a serious audit, except some of the auditors I have seen who are globally recognized auditor. They may do in a detailed way. Otherwise, if you are able to prove you are within plus or minus 1% financial value, it is more than sufficient for many of the auditors. But for supply chain executive like us, we need item level detail. Okay, so this annually once doing is a tedious job. Maybe many of you are aware or also involved in this. If you are either in warehouse or supply chain, that you are going to stop entire production and start counting, involving all the people from even other functions and do this one time item. So there are a lot of preparatory activities required. So possibly we are going to do some identification and tagging of the items. Okay, and use personnel familiar with the item, and we have to also train the people. So there is a well-known procedure when you have to count annually once in the presence of auditor. How you are going to count? The method is established. Then once you have the value, we are only going to compare with the system versus physical. If it is coming within a reasonable limit financially, if it is plus or minus zero point 0.5 or 1%, then most of the time auditor will approve and ask you to correct the inventory balance. And here the disadvantage is, if there is a difference, we will not be able to find out the root cause and correct, because it might have happened long back. So it may not be possible to trace the error based on that. Okay. So here investigation becomes a problem. Apart from that, when we do annual audit, maybe production may be shut down. There may be lot of labor and paperwork effort, pressure to get the inventory count completed, and people doing the inventory may not be familiar with the items, especially if you have 50,000 SKU. It may not be possible only for the stores or warehouse personnel to count the items. So you are going to engage people from other function who are not familiar with the product, nor they have much interest in counting the items. Okay. So errors may be introduced if we are doing annually once. Possibly by this process, we are going to introduce some of the errors. Next most preferred method is cycle counting. Why to do once in a year? You should have a small team either working full time or part time to do daily count. You have to count and check the balance. If there is any error, you have to investigate the error and correct on a daily basis. That's why cycle counting is always preferred compared to the annual count. Okay. Here we will do predetermined schedule. Some items are counted frequently depending upon value and past history of the problem. So there is a frequency fixed for the item, may be based on ABC item, or it may be based on previous problem or a past history of the problem. So possibly depending upon characteristic of this item, we may take some items to be counted on a daily basis. It can be 50 or 100, 200, depending upon requirement in the organization. When we do cycle counting, we are going to timely correct the error. The reduction of lost production, here we are not going to stop any production. It's going to happen parallelly. Okay. So if any one of you watching live in the LinkedIn or any other medium, you are welcome to comment in the LinkedIn. I will be able to respond to your doubts or clarification. In the cycle count, possibly we are using a trained personnel because it is on a daily basis. Okay, these people are familiar with the items, and we can expect them to commit lesser error, and also they will be able to investigate and identify the problem. Okay. Correction of the count and location error is important, but secondary reason. Primary responsibility is investigating the cause of incorrect record. Here in the cycle count, we are trying to find out the root cause, why there is a difference between system and physical stock. So we have to do some investigative work. This is where the people who have a knowledge, especially in the ERP process, there are a lot of audit tools available. So you will be able to go back and check previous transaction and any request, or you can tie up with the picking list. So it also requires some analytical knowledge if you want to engage in this type of activity. Okay. Cycle counters become knowledgeable and transaction process. The count frequency can be different for different category of item. For example, A category of item is counted more frequently than B or C class of item. But in the A class, it is not only based on the value, even critical item or the items which is having repetitive problem can also be put in the A class so that this can be counted continuously. Coming to the methods, especially we do ABC analysis, and then we will see, for example, A class, we may say that the frequency of count can be 12 per year, whereas B can be 4 and C can be 1 in a year. So, not only based on the value, you can also select, put some critical item where you feel some critical material, or where there is a high rejection rate, or you feel some supplier is having problem, you can put them in A and you have to count them maybe higher frequency. In our previous organization, we were doing once in 3 months, okay, for A class, and B class possibly once in 6 months, and C class once in a year. It all depends upon the accuracy requirement for your component, whether your customer is willing to wait. When you say, I have a missing component, so I have to get from the supplier, it may take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If your supplier is willing to wait, customer is willing to wait, then there is no problem. But this is the method. So you have to classify the item into ABC category and fix the count frequency, and you can finally get number of counts per day. Here you can see counts per day 82 is coming per day based on this analysis for this organization. So it can be different for your organization. Now you should also know one counter how many components they can count per day. Depending on that, for example, if one counter can count only 40 components, it's not only counting. Here we are going to continue with the investigative work, and they have to come out with the root cause and then correct. So reasonable quantity per day per person could be 50 components, and if you have a requirement of 82, possibly either you can have one full time and one part time person. Okay, but it also depends upon the complication, how big or how small is the component, what is the quantity to be counted, and the tracing back, how far it is easy or difficult. Like this, you can work out depending upon number of SKUs your organization has. First step is classify them into ABC, and then you should have approval from management. Okay, the inventory management or inventory control procedure has to be approved by the management. Then, because this also requires a dedicated manpower. Okay, without their approval, you cannot make people to count this. Okay, so there are different ways of counting method. Something called zone method used with a fixed location item, work in process counts or in transit inventory count, and location audits. We do verify the location of the goods. Okay, when to count the item? There are some guidance available, but you need not do all that based on this, because when you program in the system the frequency of count, every day you can get the list from the ERP what has to be counted. So it is going to take care of what is previously counted, and what is the frequency we have determined in the system. If you have a choice, you can do it like this. When the order is placed, because it can detect this error faster when the stock is low. When the order is received, possibly when we are having lowest stock, it is easier to count and check. Okay, that's where either during placement of order, receipt of item, the inventory count can happen. Sometimes when the inventory reaches zero, that time you can take such item. Many times you can also get the inventory as negative. Okay, that is also one reason to investigate the inventory count. Okay, I tried to give some brief introduction about inventory accuracy management. This is one small portion of overall inventory management and control technique. We have a self-paced program on inventory management, either 2 hours or 20 hours. So if any one of you interested in knowing more about these program, you are welcome to visit our site, or you can reach our executives through the WhatsApp number, whatever given, On the meantime, if anyone live, you can always type in your comments in the LinkedIn if you are able to. So if there are no doubts, clarification, we will see in the next session. In any case, if you are watching this offline, you are always welcome to comment and reach out to our executive with the WhatsApp number what is provided. We are ready to serve you. I am available for any consultation regarding your career or any training program. I am available. Thanks for watching. Have a nice evening. Bye.